The night enveloped the magnificent manor. The mansion was brightly lit, reflecting the brilliant starry sky. The light from the gorgeous wall lamps swayed. Stella lay on the bed. She slowly opened her eyes. Her heartbeat suddenly accelerated, pounding, and her eyes showed surprise. A voice rang out in the darkness. "My love," Kalyan looked down at her and said lazily, "I heard that you were desperately looking for me." Stella's cheeks flushed, her eyes panicked. She softly retorted, "I won't say desperately, I just—" Kalyan twisted a strand of her hair, leaned over, and whispered, "Just what?" Stella looked up at him and finally said, "I just thought of one thing that can be added to our engagement." The bed made a slight sound. Kalyan pressed down on the bed. He questioned from behind, "Haven't we already reviewed it carefully together?" Kalyan pointed to the engagement and said, "I believe this will guarantee you generous compensation." Stella hurriedly defended herself. "I didn't mean that." She covered her mouth with her hand, explaining with panic in her eyes, "In the current contract, there was no mention of an heir at all." Stella continued, "If you and I have a child." Kalyan tilted his head and a smile appeared on his lips. "Child?" He leaned over and whispered, "You mean I might make you pregnant during the 3-year contract?" Stella's eyes widened, her cheeks flushed. She replied softly, "Yes," she continued, "we're married, and this is very likely to happen, so the contract should—" Kalyan sneered and interrupted her. He said sarcastically, "You just pretended to be a pure virgin, but think about it, what can a back-alley prostitute expect?" Stella's face turned pale when he heard this. He shook his blonde hair, his eyes cold and contemptuous. Stella tried to explain, "That's not what I meant." Kalyan leaned close to her lips. "Okay," he gripped her waist tightly. Kalyan leaned in and whispered, "I'll add a clause to the contract." Stella's body stiffened. He kissed her lips passionately and tenderly. She let out a soft moan, her fingers clutching his collar. He raised his head and parted his lips slightly, but he stared at her with a deep and dangerous look in his eyes. He spoke in a low voice, "I think we should first find out if we can really have a child." Stella stood alone on the street in the small town during the day. She returned home and the door rang. "I'm back, Stella," a voice called out anxiously. A little blonde girl ran over. She had cute pigtails and a bright smile on her face. The little girl threw herself into Stella's arms and shouted happily, "Welcome back." Stella smiled and stroked the girl's head. She asked gently, "Hello, Mary. Did you watch the house while I was away?" Mary puffed out her chest proudly. She answered loudly, "Of course, watching the house is my job. I'm a great caretaker." Dad just came back from a meeting and is very tired. Mom is sleeping. Stella said approvingly, "Wow, our little Mary is so reliable." "Who is Dad meeting with? That's strange. I thought he had no one to meet." The Ambrose family is a count family that makes a living by selling rock salt. This white powder used to be very expensive. Due to limited production, ordinary people couldn't afford it. But after the empire built roads, the market began to prosper, salt prices plummeted, and sea salt was sold at a lower price. And the quantity is much more than our salt. It's time to prepare dinner. Mary raised her little hand and shouted excitedly, "I'll help. Our surname may still be on the noble list." Stella walked to the fireplace and ordered, "Can you help me get a cabbage?" Mary jumped away, "Okay, but we have lost all our companions because they don't want to be with people who have nothing. I wonder who my father met today to make him so tired." Stella was cutting carrots on the chopping board, and the blade reflected her thoughts. "I'm tired too," she muttered to herself, standing alone in the empty kitchen. The door was suddenly pushed open and a teenager rushed in. He shouted in panic, "Stella." Stella turned around in surprise and asked, "Sanderson, where have you been?" Sanderson interrupted her anxiously, "Never mind that, Stella, look at this. The royal summer villa is on fire and the princes are all dead." Stella couldn't believe it. "What?" Her heart sank. "All 3 princes," Sanderson quickly corrected, "not just the 2 in the villa, oh no." An ominous premonition welled up in her heart. Stella's hands tightly grasped her skirt. "Now all the shops. We're closing for mourning." Mary held a huge cabbage and shouted anxiously, "Stella, this is the last one." Stella replied calmly, "I understand. Then I should go to the market tomorrow. Mom's cough has worsened. I have spent all my money to see a doctor." Stella said to the children, "Okay, you 2 go wash your hands." The children were silent and did not move. Sanderson spoke hesitantly, Stella, what are we going to eat tomorrow? Should I also find a job? I can at least be a shoe shiner. Where can I find a job? Sanderson suddenly remembered something and said anxiously, "Oh, but Stella, there is good news too." Sanderson announced, "The Duke of Rochester is coming to the capital." Stella froze when she heard this. Stella turned around abruptly, her face full of shock. She asked in disbelief, "What? Who is coming?" Sanderson's voice rang out, "Your first love." The sunlight shone through the dense woods. A gorgeous carriage drove by, Carleon, Duke of Rochester. Carleon was reading the newspaper quietly. His expression was serious. His attendant spoke. "I can't believe that the news of the prince's death has been published in the newspaper." He asked with concern, "Are you okay? After all, they are your cousins." The corners of Carleon's mouth twitched. He crumpled the newspaper in his hand. "Cousin," he said, "let's talk about something lighter." The carriage swayed gently. The attendant reminded him, "When we get to the capital, many people will ask the same question. Are you tired of it now?" The attendant said again, "Oh, by the way, don't you go and confirm that rumor. It's about the famous Stella Ambrose." Carleon fell into memories of the little girl in the hood who had appeared before him. He fell to the ground in the snow and lost consciousness. He remembered her worried eyes. A blush rose on his face. The attendant's voice brought him back to reality. It was said that she had grown into the most dissolute Stella in the upper class. Carleon opened the curtain of the carriage. He looked out expressionlessly. "What a pity," he thought to himself. The attendant said, "By the way, I heard that she is also one of your marriage candidates." Carleon remained silent. He stared at the town outside the window and asked, "Marriage? How could I marry such a dirty Stella?" His eyes were cold and full of contempt, and the air seemed to freeze. The palace was brightly lit and solemn under the night sky. The emperor sat on the throne. He ordered in a deep voice, "Marry me, Carleon Declan Redrick. He is the emperor of this country." The emperor continued to explain, "The death of the two princes has made you the second in line to the throne. This is only natural. He is also my uncle." Carleon responded calmly, "You speak as if you have already decided who my wife will be. He is also a great ruler and can't wait for me to die." The emperor waved his hand and smiled. "Of course, I spent a lot of time and energy to choose one for you. You will be very satisfied with her." Carleon gritted his teeth. He spent so much time and energy to choose that upper class, Stella Ambrose. Why couldn't he be honest and say that my line of succession was a threat? He didn't want to give his nephew any power. Carleon stood up. "I forgot I have some things to do. Please excuse me," the emperor said leisurely. "Oh, then I won't keep you here." The emperor picked up the teacup and said casually, "By the way, Carleon, I heard that this young lady has been in love with you for a long time. When you see her, be nice to her." Carleon stood silently without responding. The emperor snorted and sipped his tea leisurely. Stella hurried across the room. Her father called her. "Stella, where are you going?" Stella turned around and said with a smile, "Oh, father." She explained, holding a basket of flowers, "All the shops are closed during the mourning period. I can't find any work, but at least I can go out and sell some flowers for the funeral." Her father interrupted her. "Stella," he asked worriedly, "a noble lady selling flowers on the street. What does this look like?" There was that word again. Stella's eye twitched. Noble status can't be used to make a living. Why doesn't he understand? Stella retorted, "You should be glad that I can make money this way. Otherwise, I would have to start working in the back alley today." Back alley, her father asked in horror, "Do you mean to be a prostitute?" "No, absolutely not. I'd rather be a beggar on the street than let you do that," Stella said calmly. "Father, we ate the last cabbage yesterday." She hugged the flower basket tightly. "I have to do this so that we can have food to eat today." There was regret in her father's voice. "Stella, I didn't mean that." But Stella had already turned and left. Mary coughed violently. Her father lowered his head guiltily. "I'm sorry, it's Dad who is useless." Mary gasped, "No, don't say that." Stella's voice rang out, "I'm sorry, I'm a little tired these days." She turned around and prepared to go out. "I'll be back soon." Her father answered helplessly, "Okay." After Stella left, he leaned weakly against the wall and sighed heavily. Stella walked on the path. She whispered to herself, "Stupid. Why are you angry with your father? He has every reason to be angry. Oh, never mind." She quickened her pace. "I'll apologize to him properly when I get home." A flower slipped from her and fell on the cobblestone road. It was already late. Stella was on her way home, but she was very happy to sell all the flowers. After paying the florist, there were not many left. But at least during the mourning period, we won't go hungry. Her foot stepped on a flower, the one that had just fallen. She stopped and bent down to pick up the flower. What is this? Did I drop it just now? She held the flower and looked at her home not far away. Sanderson's words echoed in her ears. The Duke of Rochester is coming to the capital. Your first love, the Duke of Carrion in my memory, tall, handsome, with dazzling blonde hair. Her cheeks flushed. How did Sanderson know? I certainly never showed it. She looked at the flowers in her hand. Maybe I should go to the funeral and pay tribute with this flower. She smiled. If I'm lucky, maybe I can see him from afar. She returned home. I'm back. The house was silent. Strange, why didn't Mary come to greet me? She put down the flower basket and walked up the stairs. The wooden stairs creaked. She gently pushed open the door. Did she fall asleep? Her pupils suddenly contracted and she exclaimed, "Mary!" She rushed to the bed. Mary was lying on the bed gasping for breath. She called out weakly, "Stella." Stella reached out and touched Mary's forehead. "Oh my God, you have a fever." Mary coughed violently. Stella stood up and said, "I'll go find a doctor." Mary grabbed her hand. She sobbed, "No, no." Stella asked in confusion, "Why? Don't you want to take medicine?" Mary replied softly, "No, no." "We have no money." Stella froze. "What?" Her heart ached. "I feel like someone is punishing me." Stella sat down weakly. "We have no money, but today the flower shop owner said he could give me all the money from selling flowers. Because he knew our situation. He's very generous. Otherwise, why would I let my sister worry about money?" Mary asked happily. "Really? That's great. Then you won't go to work tomorrow. If you want to punish someone, why not just punish me like before?" Stella asked in confusion. "Why do you say that tomorrow?" Mary begged. "I'm sick and I want you to stay with me all day." Stella said apologetically, "I understand, but I'm sorry, Mary. Tomorrow I have to go to the flower shop to help the owner in return." Mary pouted. "Okay, then bring me something delicious." Stella agreed. "Okay, I will. Because at least I can endure it better than anyone else." A bucket of clean water was placed on the ground, and the towel next to it was wet. Stella wiped Mary's body and put on a wet towel for her. Mary gradually fell asleep. She closed the door gently and stood alone in the corridor, looking at the night outside the window. "I need money to buy medicine, but how can I get it?" She clutched her skirt tightly. Misfortune is never satisfied until it piles up layer by layer. Sanderson looked at the job advertisement and muttered to himself, recruiting a male servant. "I'm tired of this miserable life." The door suddenly opened and Stella appeared at the door. Sanderson was startled. "Stella, even so, I have no choice but to do what I do best." She said to him, "Sanderson, Mary is sick, can you take care of her?" She walked straight out. Sanderson asked anxiously, "What? But where are you going so late?" His eyes were full of worry. The bright moonlight shone down and Stella smiled under the moon. She was determined not to escape any more and to make money. Sanderson chased her out. He shouted, "What? No, don't go. Where are you going to find a job so late?" He waved the flyer in his hand, trying to stop her from leaving. Stella did not look back. She ran forward with her skirt lifted. Running towards the light in the night, Stella panted. She came to a dark alley. The air was filled with the smell of lust and the ambiguous atmosphere was suffocating. She stopped. All this was beyond her imagination. She gasped for breath. Where was the determination she made when she left home? "I don't want to stay here, I want to go home. But if I go home, what should Mary do? We have no money." "Yes, money." She clutched her skirt tightly. "In such a big place, being a prostitute can't be the only job. As long as I bow my head and beg, I can always find some odd jobs to do." A voice came, "Miss Stella." She stopped. Stella turned around suddenly. "It's really you, right?" The woman confirmed. Stella spoke hesitantly. "Lily, what are you doing here?" Lily asked. Stella gasped and covered her mouth with her hand. "Oh my God, this is the worst place. I actually ran into my former maid. I really hoped that a crack in the ground would open and swallow me." Stella returned to the door of her house. "It was late at night. Everyone must be asleep by now. I have to go in very quietly." She pushed open the door carefully. Sanderson, he was still awake, sitting at the table. Sanderson turned around suddenly, his face full of worry. He exclaimed, "Stella, Sanderson rushed to Stella. Stella, she asked, why haven't you slept yet? Sanderson hugged her tightly. Stella was a little surprised. Oh my God, what's wrong with you? You never cling to me like this, Sanderson explained. Seeing you go out so late, I thought. Stella patted his head and said gently, did I worry you? I'm sorry. Oh, when I was out looking for a job, I met Lily. I told her I was going to make money, and she introduced me to a job. What? Sanderson asked in surprise. Lily, our former housekeeper. Stella, are you going to be a maid? He clenched his fists. No, if I'm a butler, I can. Stella interrupted him. Sanderson, you're still a child. Work is for adults. She squatted down. I'll take care of it all, don't worry. Is it time to go to bed? Sanderson bit his lip. So I'm too young to help Stella work or stop her from going out late at night. He sobbed, tears falling. I really hope I can grow up quickly. Stella looked at him distressedly. Why are you crying? Are you sad just because you're a child? You fool. He threw himself into her arms. I'll grow up quickly, and then I'll work hard so you don't have to. Stella smiled and hugged him. She whispered, if you don't go to bed early, you won't grow up. He grumbled, okay, I'll sleep. Okay. By the way, I asked how Mary was doing. She fell asleep after you left. I wiped her sweat and put her to bed. The morning sun shone on the earth. I'm so happy. Lily found me a job yesterday, although I didn't tell Sanderson. It was in a social club because I didn't want him to worry. Lily said I only needed to work in the kitchen, so it should be fine. Stella put on her clothes. She picked up the flowers from yesterday and put them in a vase. She picked up the flowers and whispered to herself, I know you want to be used well, right? There's still some time before I go to work. Let's go pay tribute to the princes. The white memorial pavilion stood in the sun, solemn and dignified. Stella poked her head out from behind the pillar. There was no one here. Was it because it was still early? She walked up the steps and placed the flowers in the memorial book. Stella bowed and saluted. There were footsteps behind her. Carlion Rochester was standing there, holding a bouquet of flowers in his hand. He stopped and looked at Stella. Stella saw his face clearly. It was Duke Carlion. She bowed her head and saluted. She felt nervous. I thought there was no one here. She looked at him in surprise. Oh, she took a breath and covered her mouth with her hand. It was Duke Rochester. He casually threw the bouquet into the memorial book. Is he in a bad mood today? She wondered. He turned and left. Stella was at a loss. Or do I smell something? She lowered her head and smelled herself. I don't think so. She looked at his back. Why is he looking at me like a pest? Tusk, so the rumor is true, he whispered contemptuously. His handsome face was full of disgust. The carriage was driving on the country road, and the wheels made a creaking sound. What rumors? Carlion asked. His entourage explained. Miss Stella's uncle is spreading rumors that your marriage with her is confirmed. Well, I've long been used to all kinds of rumors about me, Carlion said casually. But this one is quite obscene. He clutched his clothes tightly. What? His attendant said, the rumor is like this. Stella leaned over to Carlion, and the two had ambiguous postures. Stella stroked his chin, and the posture was extremely intimate. The Duke of Rochester was a passionate man who had fought in the army for many years. He stared into her eyes, but even he could not resist. Stella smiled seductively. What if Miss Stella took off her clothes and threw herself into his arms? A noisy social club. People were dancing on the dance floor. When I heard the location, I had a strange feeling. This may be called a social club, but it is no different from a bar in the back alley. The door creaked open and Carlion walked in. There was a hint of displeasure on his face. A man came up to greet him. He was the protagonist of the night. The Duke of Rochester's visit is a great honor to our humble home. Egbert's face was full of smiles. Carlion looked at him expressionlessly. If I had known what this place was, I would not have come. What do you want me to do? Most places are closed during the mourning period. Egbert said helplessly, Okay. Let's sit down and talk. He opened a cigar box. I think it's time you tell me why you suddenly joined the army. Carlion sat down. He picked up a cigar and lit it with a click. Why do you think it is? There are too many things here that are bothering me. Oh, by the way, you always say that I don't bother to care, Egbert said with a smile, but I think you are in big trouble now. I mean your fiancée, Miss Stella Ambrose. That name again. Carlion's eyes twitched. Egbert continued. She is the person of the year. In order to revive the declining family, it is said that she wanders the streets every night in scantily clad clothes. Kalyan's cheeks flushed. Damn Ambrose, but she is a snob and rejected so many people. As if she still had any choice, Egbert sighed. I heard that Earl Talbert's second son was also rejected. I talked to those who were fascinated by her, and they all said how beautiful she was. Very beautiful. Egbert asked in surprise, Have you seen her before? Kalyan replied, Yes, she is disgustingly beautiful. See, I told you she would become a duchess. A man rushed in excitedly. Really? Then you are Miss Stella's uncle? Another person asked. Yes, as far as I know, the Duke of Rochester is already crazy about her. My niece is always quick. As long as she makes a move on Rochester, he will give in immediately. By then, I'm afraid they will have children before they get married. Kalyan blew out a smoke ring. Tusk, so I suddenly have a wife and a child now. He grabbed his hair in annoyance. Damn Ambrose. Stella washed the dishes absent-mindedly. Why did he look at me like that? His eyes were full of contempt. Did I do something? I can't stop thinking. Laura, are you listening? A voice interrupted her. Oh, yes, she replied hurriedly. Sorry, can you go to the lounge to help? There are a lot of guests coming during the morning period and we are short-staffed. Does he want me to serve wine? She looked outside secretly, but I am using a pseudonym to hide my noble identity. Well, I thought I only work in the kitchen. Stella tried to explain. What do you mean? The man interrupted her impatiently. We are so busy, you can't just do what you want. Didn't you come here because of Lily's flattery? Then you should behave well and work harder. Oh, she was shocked. I didn't realize that if I didn't do well, it would have a bad impact on Lily. She came here to help me. I can't cause her any trouble. She nodded. I'll do it. She carried the tray and walked out of the kitchen. No one should recognize me. I hope God bless you and nothing will go wrong. Stella Ambrose. A voice sounded behind her. Stella stopped and she felt a chill. The voice said, The Duke of Rochester, yes, that famous girl. Egbert said excitedly, What do you think of her as your wife? He asked. Kalyan, what are you asking him? She is your best choice. Yes, I heard that she is great in bed. Not only that, she is also a complete beauty. If you want, you can even sell her for a lot of money. Stella's cheeks flushed. What are they talking about? I left the upper class a long time ago. Now they are making such jokes about me. Egbert asked with a smile, So, Kalyan, what do you think? Do you also want that upper class? Kalyan had a blank expression. Stella Ambrose, a woman like her doesn't deserve to stand by my side, yeah. I guess you're right, ha 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 ha. The tray trembled in her hands. She turned and ran away. But all I did was admire you. From below, she accidentally bumped into someone. And the things on the tray fell to the ground. This means I never thought of standing by your side. She fell to the ground, damn. Where are you looking? A man scolded. Her hand was cut by glass shards. Ouch, she sat on the ground. People around were whispering, I know better than anyone. I don't deserve to stand by you. Her heart ached. The pain made me want to cry. Are you okay? A gentle voice. Came this gentle voice coming from above my head, only made me lie on the ground more embarrassedly. Kalyan stood in front of her. He stretched out his hand. You look hurt. I want to run away. Stella fell to the ground in embarrassment. The cold tiles gave a chill. Duke. Kalyan looked down at her. His figure looked tall in the light. Duke. Kalyan opened his thin lips. You look hurt. Stella raised her head. Her cheeks flushed. She answered hurriedly, I'm fine. A man came over and asked Duke Kalyan, Why did you run away so suddenly? Did you do it? The man reached out to grab Stella, but Kalyan blocked him with his hand. He replied coldly, No. Duke Kalyan held a gold coin, which glittered between his fingers. But I do sympathize with her and am willing to help her. He loosened his fingers, and several gold coins fell to the ground with a jingle. The golden light reflected in Stella's eyes. This should be enough to pay for the drinks and medical expenses. Duke Kalyan's voice was cold. Stella knelt on the ground. She reached out to grab the gold coins, and her palm was cut and blood dripped. This is not humiliating, not at all, she told herself. The man urged, If we're done over there, can we continue our conversation? Duke Kalyan glanced at him. He slowly turned around. Of course, we are discussing something very important. He walked away, no longer looking at Stella on the ground. That's great. Stella clutched the gold coin tightly. With so much money, you can hire a doctor for Mary. Her body trembled slightly and maybe even buy medicine for her mother. So it's okay for me. Stella staggered and tried to stand up. Stella thought, besides, the Duke is right. The man shouted behind her, "Oh my God, Laura." She recalled her plan. "As I told you before, I need all his sympathy." A voice echoed in her mind, "Wow, how much money does this cost? This is the luck I deserve." Tears welled up in her eyes, so smile. She forced a smile. "Excuse me, can I continue to work in the kitchen?" In the banquet hall, Duke Carrion was talking to someone. There was a lot of noise around. Stella knelt on the ground and looked at the crowd from a distance. The Duke's figure was looming. Duke Carrion glanced back and his eyes fell on her. Laura, well, he thought, is that her alias? What a cheap name, it suits her very well. He tugged at his scarf irritably. She wanted to seduce me, as her uncle said, so what qualifications does she have? With such an expression, his expression became complicated. Damn Ambrose. He turned back to the subject, so about that matter, his eyes became sharp. The man with glasses continued, "I heard that the Rochester family plans to invest in the newly discovered sea routes." He and the people around him pricked up their ears. He asked tentatively, "Are you interested in this?" Duke Carrion tapped his forehead, feeling confused. "What am I talking about?" This was supposed to be a secret project, but it seems the news has leaked out. The corners of Duke Carrion's mouth rose slightly, and he announced confidently, "I am seriously considering investing." Please, if I really wanted to consider it, how could I tell them publicly? I'm surrounded by idiots. Night fell and a bright moon hung high in the sky. Stella returned to her humble residence. She whispered, "I'm back." She held her injured hand tightly. "I finally got the job, but I was fired." She sobbed softly, clutching her purse. "Should I be thankful that at least I still have the gold coins thrown by the Duke?" Stella Ambrose remembered the Duke's contemptuous words. "A woman like that isn't worthy of standing by my side." She staggered. "It's so embarrassing." She really wanted to run away, but she looked at Mary on the hospital bed. "What will happen to my brothers and sisters if I leave?" Sanderson hugged her tightly, seeking comfort. I'm so tired." She closed her tired eyes. "Don't think about it, let's go to sleep." "I have to get up early tomorrow to find a new job." She noticed something on the table. A piece of paper lay there quietly. The paper made a slight rustling sound. She muttered to herself, "This is the newspaper that Sanderson had been reading before." It was a job advertisement. "Wanted, live-in governess. Women only, live-in governess. If you provide food and lodging, that's a great opportunity. This job might be suitable for me." Hope ignited in her eyes. "The fact that I'm a noble might be an advantage. Once I leave the capital, that strange rumor will die down." She muttered to herself. She walked up the stairs. The floorboards creaked. "I'm a society." She pushed open the door. "I've never heard anything more ridiculous than this." Outside the door was a different scene. Stella's father looked horrified. "Live-in governess," he shouted excitedly. "What will people say if an unmarried woman doesn't live in her own home?" Stella retorted calmly, "Father, please be realistic. We're broke, we need money to buy medicine for Mom." Sweat broke out on her forehead. Her father stammered, "But..." Stella was right, but he was thinking, but the live-in governess is no different from a maid. He clenched his fists. "As her father, I can't just sit back and watch her do that kind of hard labor. Is there anything I can do?" He was lost in thought. Suddenly his eyes lit up. "Got it." He slammed the table. He stood up with a firm look in his eyes. "Hold on, Stella, I'll find a way." In a mansion, Virgil said disdainfully, "My brother said he would come to visit in the afternoon." He smiled smugly. I knew it. Stella is not qualified to refuse a man like Rochester." He sat leisurely in a chair. A woman came over and said, "She's always like that, dull and stupid." She continued, "She doesn't even know that her value is declining." The woman smiled. She looked gentle and elegant. She can only blame her father. The vicious words echoed in her mind. Virgil was holding a document. I'm sure he didn't know. He had a smug smile on his face. This was the contract he was going to sign. Virgil's profile looked sinister. In fact, it was his daughter's indenture. Virgil's words were malicious. The figure of her father appeared. He held a seal. The seal seemed to have the family coat of arms. Stella's figure emerged. She looked helpless and fragile. Stella wiped her with a wet towel. Mary lay on the bed, groaning in pain. There was a knock on the door. Sanderson poked his head in. "Stella, Dad is back." Stella's eyebrows twitched. She replied, "I'll be there right away." Sanderson was waiting at the door. Stella followed him out. He suddenly said he had to figure it out on his own, and then he didn't come home for several days. Stella gritted her teeth. Mary was bedridden. Where on earth had he been? She walked down the stairs and asked, "Dad, where have you been?" Her father interrupted her. "Oh, Stella, come and look at this." Stella stopped. She saw a man sitting at the table, Uncle Virgil. Virgil greeted her with a smile. "Hello, Stella, long time no see." Stella stepped forward. "What are you doing here?" Uncle Virgil replied, "Your father told me everything." He said with a hint of sarcasm, "So you are considering becoming a live-in governess." This made your father so worried that he fell ill. He looked at Stella's father. "That's why I came here." He took out a document and handed it to Stella. "With this contract can solve all your problems." Stella took the document and the paper rustled. "What are you talking about?" She opened the document, her hands trembling slightly. "A mansion in the capital, tuition paid in full, as well as a live-in doctor and a monthly allowance." She looked up, her eyes full of confusion and bewilderment. "How is this possible?" Stella questioned. "What is this, father?" the father stammered. "This is the only way to protect you." Stella was furious. She held up the contract. "How can this be protecting me?" The contract read. "Collateral? Stella Ambrose, I've been used as collateral." She slammed the contract on the table. Virgil stood up to explain. "It seems there's been some misunderstanding. Let me explain." He opened his arms. "As you know, 2 princes recently died, and the responsible individuals were hanged. Their assets were also confiscated. A rope has been put around a mountain range, including our Salt Mountain." The father stood up excitedly. "That's right, our Salt Mountain has been auctioned off," Stella said. "We can buy it back at a lower price." Stella sneered, tears dripping from her face. "Sea salt is everywhere now, and you still want to buy a salt mountain?" Her heart was beating wildly. "For this, you are even willing to use me as collateral," Uncle Virgil interrupted. "Oh, child, I think you have completely misunderstood." He grabbed Stella's wrist. Stella cried painfully. He patted her shoulder. "You know your father would never do anything to hurt you. This is your chance to become the Duchess of Rochester." He showed a weird smile in the shadows. Stella looked at the contract in horror. "You are going to marry Carrion, Duke of Rochester." Uncle's voice echoed in her ears. The figure of Duke Carrion appeared. He walked on the red carpet covered with flowers. Stella's heart was beating wildly. Stella was wearing a wedding dress, her heart beating like a drum. She clasped her hands nervously. The Duke's words echoed in her mind, "You are not worthy to stand by my side." She was wearing a wedding dress and standing in front of Duke Carrion. The Duke's expression was indifferent. She burst into tears. "How could he marry someone like me?" She trembled and clenched her fists. Uncle snatched the contract from her hand. "That's not true." He smiled and said, "The Duke of Rochester will marry you because it is the Emperor's order." Duke Carrion cursed under his breath. "Damn it, the Emperor's order." He held the imperial edict. "You want me to marry Stella Ambrose so much. I'm sure that old snake just wants to use this marriage to mess with me. He wants to humiliate me and place his people in the Rochester family at the same time." He drummed his fingers on the table. "Even if I successfully rejected Stella Ambrose, he might push a more troublesome woman on me." In this case, he thought of Stella's figure. Marrying that damn Ambrose might be the best way to save trouble. "A magnificent manner." Stella asked, "How is Mary?" The doctor replied, "She just had a common cold, but the long duration has affected her body. She is also a little malnourished. But as long as she eats well from now on, she will be fine." Mary lay in bed and fell asleep peacefully. Stella murmured to herself, "Common cold, malnutrition, these could have been solved with some medicine and a normal diet." She clenched her fists. Sanderson's voice came. "Stella!" Sanderson ran over excitedly. He was wearing new clothes, the shirt that Uncle Virgil bought me. "How do I look?" Stella smiled and said, "You are so handsome. I am about to fall in love with you." Sanderson smiled and said, "Really? Then maybe I should marry you. Oh, by the way, Uncle Virgil asked me to tell you. He's waiting for you on the first floor." Stella looked away. "Well, okay," her uncle waved to her downstairs. "Oh, here it is, Stella." Stella responded with a smile. "I'm here. It's been less than a week since we signed the contract, and our lives have become much more comfortable, as if the previous suffering had never happened." Her uncle said with a smile, Come and see who's here. Stella asked doubtfully. Someone's here. Do we have guests? Her uncle replied. Don't be silly. What man doesn't want to see his fiancée moving into a new home? This newfound wealth fills me with hope. She heard the Duke accept the marriage. Is the Duke of Rochester really here? She swallowed nervously, imagining a magnificent carriage parked outside the door. So he might not believe the ridiculous rumors about me. He really wants to see me in person. The Duke of Carrion was sitting in the carriage. A smile played on his lips. A servant stood at the door, which was piled with gift boxes. Virgil exclaimed, "Wow, look at this, Stella. These are all sent by the Duke of Rochester." "This is too exaggerated," she whispered. "I'm so sorry." Her cheeks flushed. She didn't expect the Duke to come in person. Virgil urged, "What are you waiting for? Open them quickly." Stella replied, "Oh, of course I don't want to. Look at me, why am I complaining when he's so generous?" She picked up a gift box and opened it. Wow, it's so beautiful. Inside the box was a necklace and a dress. Did the Duke really prepare all this? A servant came over. "Miss Stella, this is also from His Excellency," Stella murmured. "There's more. It's a big bouquet of flowers with a card attached. It's so lovely." She smelled the fragrance of the flowers. She picked up the card and opened it. "I'm full of anticipation." The handwriting on the card made her heart beat faster. When Uncle Virgil said that the Duke of Rochester was open to this marriage, I couldn't believe it. But maybe. The figure of Duke Carrion appeared. He was wiping a ring. "I'm looking forward to it too." His voice rang in her ears. Stella's heart beat faster again. Stella covered her face with her hands. "Maybe I can look forward to this marriage too." Virgil poked his head out from behind the door. "But why isn't the Duke here? He's still her fiancé." The servant replied, Oh, actually, he didn't want to catch you off guard, so he said he would come after the gifts were delivered." Stella gasped. "You mean His Excellency is on his way now?" She paused. "Ah, I'm glad he's coming, but what if he's disappointed to see me?" She glanced at the pile of gifts. "I should dress up before he comes. It would be polite for her to wear the dress he gave her to meet him." Her cheeks flushed. There were all kinds of jewelry in the gift box, necklaces, rings, earrings. There was also a gorgeous necklace in the gift box. Outside the manor, Virgil smiled and said, "That dress looks really good on you. I wish your father could see it too." He laughed. Stella replied, "There's nothing I can do." He went to get medicine for his mother and would be back very late. She looked particularly beautiful in the sunlight in that green dress. "Anyway, I hope His Excellency will like it," she whispered. Virgil snorted. "Any man with eyes would like it, so don't worry." He glanced into the distance. "Oh, Stella, I think someone is coming. A man is standing in the distance. Go and see who it is. I think it's the Duke." Stella stared into the distance. "The Duke of Rochester, I thought he would come in a carriage." She lifted her skirt and walked forward step by step. "He expressed sympathy to me that day and threw gold coins to me. I heard it clearly." The figure of the Duke of Carrion appeared. Stella Ambrose. "A woman like that is not worthy to stand by my side. He and his friends laughed at me, called me a high class, and said I was not worthy of being with him. But he is a wise man," Stella thought. She walked towards the figure. "Your Excellency, he must have felt something was wrong and made his own investigation. This will tell him that the rumor was a complete lie." A chill came over her. A man in a hat stood there with his head lowered. Stella Ambrose. "That is not the Duke of Rochester." Stella staggered. "Who are you? Do I know you?" The man leaned closer. Stella stepped back subconsciously. "Ha, of course I know you, you fool." He suddenly grabbed her wrist. "Ah, you, what are you doing?" "Let go. You happily accepted the jewelry and clothes I bought you, but now you have the courage to ask who I am. I even broke off the engagement for you." He looks completely crazy. "Did your uncle see this? Why didn't he come to help?" He grabbed her chin. "Why did you suddenly cut off contact? Wasn't the money I gave you enough? Is that so, or have you found a new man? Answer me," he roared. Stella trembled in his hands. Stella trembled and said, "Why are you doing this? I think you recognize the wrong person." Her hands were shaking. The man roared, "I recognize the wrong person, so our love is a mistake." He raised his hand and was about to hit her. "You dirty." The Duke of Rochester grabbed his wrist. "Ah," she groaned in pain and protected herself with her hands. She gasped for breath. "Take your hand away." The man tried to break free, but was grabbed by a stronger hand. The Duke of Carrion appeared. He asked coldly, "What happened here?" The man pulled his hand away. "Ha, you must be her new man." He straightened his clothes. "I'll give you some advice. She is a vicious woman. One minute she was pretending to be an innocent girl, and the next minute she was betraying herself." Stella fell to the ground. "I must tell the Duke. I don't know what he is saying, but I feel sick and want to vomit." She gasped for breath, her hands clutching her chest tightly. The Duke of Carrion glanced at her. "Thank you for your worthless advice." He walked towards the man, and the man stepped back in fear. Duke Clion grabbed his collar. "But that's terrible. I don't like people giving me advice," Duke Clion said coldly. The man was strangled by him. I think there's some misunderstanding here." Virgil ran over. "Oh, Duke of Rochester." He opened his arms. "I don't know where this came from, but I think it's just a big misunderstanding." Duke Clion said to Uncle Virgil, "I'll take care of him. Can you go see Stella?" She looked very uneasy. The Duke looked at Stella, and Stella also looked at him. "Aha, a misunderstanding." The Duke walked towards Stella. Stella fell to the ground, gasping for breath. The Duke stopped in front of her. "I came here today to talk to you." His eyes were sharp. "But you just put on a good show." "Miss Stella, I didn't expect it. It's worse than I thought," Duke Clion said. Stella hurriedly explained, "No, it's not like that. I don't know that man at all. There must be some misunderstanding. This is the first time I've seen him today." She staggered back. "Why did this happen on such a special day? I swear I know nothing." Her tears fell. Duke Callion held out his hand. "Someone told me that. With your beautiful face, you have made countless men fascinated by you." His words made her tremble, and tears welled up in her eyes. A cold and monotonous voice sounded in her ears. "Get rid of all those men before our wedding." His eyes were cold. That cold, contemptuous look told me that if you don't have money, go to my assistant. He turned and left. The happy marriage I dreamed of will not come true. I can't escape the prison I call life. I just moved from one hell to another. After that, I never saw the Duke again, but the arrangements for the wedding went on quickly. The wedding was crowded with guests. In the bride's room, Sanderson said, "Stella is there." Stella's father and Sanderson stood together. The father replied, "Yes, but you shouldn't disturb her too much. Just meet her briefly and leave." "Okay, I'll just say hi to her." The father turned and left. The father laughed and said, "Haha, look at him." Rumors swirled around this ridiculous wedding. "I heard that she couldn't even afford the dowry." He glanced at the two women. "Then she had the nerve to demand a lavish wedding. What a cheap and vulgar woman, but I'm not surprised. After all, that's how she got to the top." The two women snickered. Just like the previous rumors, malicious and unfounded. Stella's father thought, "I really want to say something to them, but I shouldn't cause trouble at my daughter's wedding. I just hope the children don't hear those harsh words." Sanderson stood there awkwardly. Stella. Stella was holding a bouquet of flowers. "Sanderson, what's wrong? Did something happen?" She was wearing a wedding dress and was beautiful. "Stella, are you happy?" Sanderson asked. "What?" Stella was puzzled. "I just heard someone say, they all say you're too good for him, you're the most beautiful woman in the world, so they all say he doesn't deserve you." Stella couldn't help laughing. Sanderson rubbed his hands nervously. "Listen." "Stella." Sanderson grabbed her hand with tears in his eyes. "Run, I'll take care of the consequences. I know it's us who are making your life difficult," Stella said with a smile. "Sanderson." Stella wiped Sanderson's tears. Sanderson said, "Please leave everything behind and run away." "Stella, I don't want you to suffer anymore. I'm fine, really." Stella smiled, "So don't worry, okay?" She shook Sanderson's hand and welcomed the bride. The master of ceremonies' voice rang out. Stella walked down the aisle arm in arm with her father. The worst wedding in history, the one that no one wanted, had already begun. Her face was expressionless. Duke Carrion glanced at her. He stood at the altar, waiting for her. Stella thought, when I put my hand on the Duke's, that was when I realized reality. The families of the bride and groom were present. The groom, Carrion Rochester, and the bride, Stella Ambrose, will recite their vows. The master of ceremonies' voice echoed. Stella sniffed nervously. Duke Carrion sighed. "Carrion Rochester, are you willing to fulfill your duties as this woman's husband and ensure she has a happy family?" "I do," he answered without hesitation. "Stella Ambrose, are you willing to be this man's faithful and devoted wife?" Stella's cheeks flushed. She looked nervously ahead. "I do." she answered softly. The master of ceremonies announced, "Now the bride and groom will kiss to seal these vows." Duke Carrion lifted her chin. They looked at each other. He leaned forward slightly. They kissed. The guests applauded and cheered. Stella's father was also applauding. Stella's uncle was applauding. "Well," the guests whispered. Looking at Mrs. Rochester's face, "It's understandable. I don't want a daughter-in-law like that either." A blonde woman had a blank expression. She was Mrs. Rochester. Callion kissed Stella. Looking closer, I realized that Callion put his hand in the middle. He was using a borrowed position. Callion whispered to Stella, "Don't look so sad. I don't have the patience to comfort you when you're crying." He let her go. Stella nodded. Callion held out her hand. Stella took his arm and they walked down the steps. Stella's cheeks turned even redder. Stella smiled and took the Duke's arm. She closed her eyes disdainfully. Callion thought, "Damn Ambrose." Callion's neck flushed. Night fell and the stars were dotted. A magnificent castle was brightly lit. "Ha," Stella sighed. "I never knew that weddings were such tiring things." She sat in the room, looking at the starry sky outside the window. "I really wanted to go to bed directly. But I couldn't." The door creaked and opened. Stella swallowed nervously. She turned around. In walked Duke Carrion, dressed in his nightgown. Petals fell around him.